Hello and welcome. I'd like to start off this video by asking a simple question, which is the question of why do you speak? Why do you communicate with people? And especially in the cases where you don't need to. So most likely your answer will probably go along the lines of, well, I'm a free person and I have the freedom of speaking. And so speaking is an expression of being free. Well, to that, I would respond that are you truly free if you are speaking and you are saying whatever comes to mind, whatever comes to your head, you just kind of spout it immediately without any sort of filtering or thinking or so forth. And so this video is going to be a little bit about speaking, which I feel like we have lost the ability to do properly and effectively throughout generations and throughout time, where things have been dumbed down over and over again and things have been washed down to the point where the value of speaking and the respect that we have towards communication has just died down. And so I'm going to share some things that I've found being in my last year of university, having worked a little bit in my field, having been a part of organizations and groups and different areas, friend circles, and different cultures from different countries, and just a little bit about speaking and what I think has been lost and what I think are just kind of basic rules and basic things that we are no longer following when we speak words. So, firstly, why is it even important, and is this video truly even worth it if, speaking, I speak carelessly and nothing has seemed to happen to me, and I haven't faced dire consequences for not taking speaking as seriously as you want me to. So, is this all even worth it? Well, I'd say that even if you don't care about the value of the communication that you're providing to the other person, it still has a huge effect on yourself. Speaking, it reflects your identity and it reflects who you are and what you stand for. So if you're speaking and it's not matching your identity, then that's an area where you're going to fill in through through randomly spouting things that you want to seem like. You're going to be spouting things that you've learned through your idols, or even in like the least um, the most common scenario. You're just going to be spouting things that you've learned through your childhood. You're going to be saying things that you hear like 2 days before, or things that your family says often, or things that your friends say often. And these are all huge problems. Even the most common one of learned behavior translating into your entire framework of speech, because this means that if your speech and your behavior and your identity is solely based on whatever your childhood or who you grew up around, or your family at home, then that means that in a scenario where you're placed amongst bad people, where you're placed amongst people who you thought you would never become like, or yet that you hate, you would easily turn into those people. And that's the tragic reality, is that most people nowadays are communicating with such a hollow selfhood, with no selfhood at all, that either they are just easily malleable to the point where they speak to someone and they immediately start replicating them or replicating others, or trying to like gather bits and pieces of an identity in order to come up with something on the spot. And yeah, the most common scenario that I see in university and like before in high school is swearing. Like, why is there swearing if swearing has no value, if it doesn't add any sort of linguistic value to the conversation? why does swearing exist? If it's insufficient to even express what you're feeling, whether it's a surprise or anger or whatnot, why is swearing a thing? And so swearing is a thing because of the contagious nature of communication and the fact that if one person keeps swearing around another person that doesn't, that non-swearing person will eventually learn that behavior and start swearing. And this is something that we have lost both on a societal level and even within religion itself. We were warned about speaking foully. We were warned by the prophet, peace be upon him. He told us that the believer is not one who insults, curses, or speaks in an obscene or foul manner. And these sorts of rules that we just kind of brush off through religious leaders like the prophet, through religions that changed and shaped the world, through religions that shaped our society and shaped our legal system. We no longer care about these seemingly small rules and values that they had to offer us before, and so now we just kind of do whatever. And unless something, it has to hit or you have to feel it, then we just kind of disregard it and we ignore it. And so now here we are. Our language has been cut down by half, and half of our vocabulary has just been replaced by curse words because our rap idols do it, and our friends did it to the point where it's ingrained into our heads. And so, with that in mind, with the fact that behavior and communication is a reflection of your identity and what you want to stand for, let's kind of get into a few more basic aspects of conversation and why it's serious and why we should take it seriously and why we should seek to revamp the value and start respecting speech again. So, speaking and conversations and situations that you're put in life, whether it's through at school, at work, in your relationships, or with family. These are all areas of life, like little levels in a challenging game that you're being tested, and you can either lose in that level and go to the next level, or you can either win and go to the next level, or you can lose and be stuck at that level. You can lose and stay at that level of maturity. You can lose and stay at that level of evil and sin and carelessness towards others and towards yourself. And so being able to acknowledge within the scenario, taking a step back and saying, wait a second, this is not just a childish conflict. This is not just a meaningless interaction between me and this person. This is actually me being put on the spot. There's a spotlight on me, and God wants to see how I'm going to respond at the threat of whatever it is, whether it's the threat of a value that I have, whether it's the threat of character, where my character can either break me, where my character can either break, or I can use my character, whether it's a test of whether or not I can help the person in front of me, or I can make them worse, or I can, just not care about them and not care about humanity. And so scenarios that you get put in matter, and you're being put on the spot. God wants to see, and if you prove valuable within that scenario, if you prove valuable to God, and if you happen to pass that test, whether it's staying patient at the sight of somebody who's being aggressive at you, or somebody who has a conflict with you, or whether it's being patient at somebody who is complaining to you, and you you don't have the patience to deal with that, and just be the listener for them. All of these are scenarios for you to be tested. They're testing grounds, and life is a battleground, and communication interactions and dynamics between you and the world, you and people, are a means of you to grow, to develop, and to show God your value and your worth as a soul that he created, to earn your value here on earth and in heaven. And so it's quite serious if you start to see things as a precursor to your future, whether what you do in a scenario can be the determining factor of your success, of the person who you're interacting with success, and overall the betterment of the world after one interaction after the other will become overall better if this awareness leads you to be better with other people. And God said uh, in the Quran that not a word does a person utter without having a vigilant observer ready to write it down. And so this testing grounds concept is reiterated multiple times in all the Abrahamic religions. And these religions that we use to found the basis of our societies have have all stated that, everything we utter, everything we do, everything that we show to the world, it's all being documented and it's all being weighed on a scale of good and evil. And so, with that in mind, um, why don't we use these scenarios as a test? Why don't we rise up to the challenge of beating these levels and going to the next level? Why is it that we have to be rewarded with little score systems and little flags and whatever it is they use in games for us to rise up to the challenge and try really hard? We can try really hard even at the basic things that we think are meaningless, such as conversations. And I guarantee you that the reward will be immense and your life will begin to transform if you do choose to start respecting speech again. So let's get into some basic rules of speech that I think were discarded along the way throughout the generations. Sorry, one sec. So the first rule that I no longer see, and I believe humanity no longer sees, based on my experience in university, in friend circles, and at work, you know, everywhere really, is that of friendliness. So this involves like a failure to greet others, to smile at people, to treat others with kindness, and just to overall provide a positive energy, provide a positive vibe to the people who you come across, no matter how much or little you know about them or know them. And failing to do so is actually a huge sign of weakness. And so, how how strong how strong you are is not based solely off, how much you can lift or how much you can put your foot on the floor when you want something to go your way. Being strong also means that when life is hitting you hard, when you're stressed out, your exams are stressing you out, work is getting stressful, they're putting a lot of work on you, you're working overtime, relationships are going downhill, all these things that lead you to think that you can use an excuse to not be good to others. Excuse me. You can't use an excuse. It's not a part of the it's not strong of you to just um take one loss in your life and then create more losses through not being kind to others. And when you do so, it's a sign of weakness. You are too weak to override how you feel about one scenario, how you feel about some past events in order to succeed in the training in the testing grounds that you're in the current moment. And so in order for you to truly be strong, I urge you to experiment. When something bothers you, ask yourself, how can this bothersome situation influence my interactions in the future? And I guarantee you that you'll start being able to predict, oh, okay, so when my mom says this to me, or when this person at work orders me around like this or something, then I'm eventually rude to this other person, or I'm eventually disregarding or withdrawing to, my relationship person or whatever it is. Um, another another cause of this in is intelligence. So besides weakness, and besides the fact that you weren't able to override the negative feelings that you felt from losses in the past, it's also a matter of intelligence whether or not you'll be able to learn positive communication skills and do them irrespective of how you feel in that moment. So being able to know, logically know, okay, so smiling is a requirement of is a component of being kind to strangers. Being speaking to them, greeting them, and greeting them back in the same kind of way or a better way is also something that is kind. And having these logical rules allows you to do them without relying on feeling good, without relying on feeling like you want to be good to them or want to be kind to them. And so intelligence is also playing a part in this situation. So the the prophet, peace be upon him, was said to have Tirmidhi said about the prophet, peace be upon him, I have never seen anyone who smiled more than the prophet, peace be upon him. And this is something that came with the prophecy of the prophet Muhammad, because he was meant to gain that sort of power through people and through followers. He was able to gain an immense amount of power through the people that chose to accept Islam and become a part of the ummah, become a part of his organization, because of how great his character was, because of how just he was, and because of, in this example, how friendly he was. He would smile at everyone. He would greet everyone. He would speak to everyone with respect. And even to the point where, even to his enemies, he would grant them so many, he would be so kind to them and grant them a large portion of what they demanded in kind of agreements throughout war and things like that. Even his enemies would understand the level of kindness that he has. And that's the kind of energy that brought everyone together, that led to, as you know today, like how many Muslims there are in the world. The second basic rule of speech that we have seemed to kind of discard is that of just responsiveness, being responsive to others no matter what, showing respect to what people have to say, no matter what you think about how they look, or what they have to offer you, how busy you are, how much value you place into these other things that you have to do. Respecting the person that has come up and decided to speak to you is a core kind of value of speech that we no longer do. Like, yeah, I gotta get to work. What can I say to get this guy off me? You know, like, does this person really need to speak to me right now? I need to eat food, and just things like this, where you start to withdraw, you start to push people away because you're not responsive and you're not respecting the sole activity that you've been placed in, which is an interaction, a communication between you and someone else. And so this is unjust. This is unjust to not give people a chance. It's unjust to not respect the person and their being, they have decided to communicate. They have a soul inside of them, and they have been created by God just like you. And so you're disrespecting the creation of God. And so anybody who is speaking to you, not speaking to them back with dedication and like truly acknowledging, giving what they say a chance, is a matter of ego. Like in your ego, you think, man, like this guy has spoken like 5 times. There's nothing I can gain from him. I need to go. Like this guy's going to waste my time. That's your ego saying that you have nothing to gain. You have nothing to gain from winning in this level of that you're in this testing ground, and your ego is urging you to leave because it thinks it's better, because you think you're better. um, so yeah, being responsive is another kind of core thing about speech that we no longer follow and that we should follow. The last basic thing that I'll talk about before getting into the somewhat more complicated aspects of speech that we have lost is that of volume. So volume control is not really something that we respect nowadays either. You can see this especially like in university where people are just like yelling and unless there's some sort of monitoring mechanism in the library, or people can call the security, and people can just yell whenever they want. And this is unfortunately because of the lack of rules within speech and the lack of respect that we have towards effective and beneficial speech. We are just yelling to gain control over the conversation. We're yelling or laughing very loudly in order to express ourselves, or like, we're speaking too loudly because of a lack of mutual respect. I'm not going to go into too much about speaking very silently or speaking without the other person hearing everything that you have to say. But and that's just because there are a lot of issues with some people. Some people have illnesses, and some people have just sort of they're on a lesser place within the scale of pathology, and they might not be able to speak as clearly or loudly. But even speaking without clear communication is something that I feel is lost and should be respected as well. But in this case, I'm just going to focus on the basic rule of controlling the volume that of your communication and your speech, to the point where you're not being aggressively loud, you're not being aggressively expressive and disruptive with your laughs and your expressions and the way you speak, because you think it's just alpha to speak loudly, and it's just kind of it's really gross. And it's like this is a rule that I believe a basic rule of speech that we should be following. So to get into this next rule of speech and how to better our speech and why we should do so. So let's talk about intellect. So the Quran says in Surah Al-Isra, "Do not follow what you have no sure knowledge of. Indeed, all will be called to account for their hearing, sight, and intellect." And this is another rule brought to us by Islam, that if we chose to follow, our entire society would be so much better. Think about times where you have met someone, or you yourself has acted intellectual in order to dominate the conversation. How much have you learned from spouting things that you don't know very much? How much have you gained from the person who could possibly have known more than you, when all you focused on was how can I seem like I know the most? And this is a problem because in situations where intellect is the driver of the conversation, we should have instead let the true intellect, the true holder of knowledge, be the leader of that conversation. if knowledge is the basis of the conversation, don't you think that the gaining of knowledge is the ultimate purpose of that conversation? So in cases where we are not knowledgeable, we're speaking, and this is a huge problem, not just for society as we keep doing this, but also for ourselves and our own development. Because one wise person put on the default background of a Kali installation said, the less you speak, the more silent you are, the more you're able to hear. And in a situation, again, like I said, where you don't know as much as the other person, or rather, let's make it more simpler. You don't have to play a guessing game about the other person. In a situation where you don't know everything about the topic that you want to talk about, it's much more beneficial for you to stay silent and allow the other person to freely provide you with information. This is something that will help you along your entire life because instead of trying to give something that you don't have, you're being receptive and you're receiving. Now imagine you receive 5 times a day. You're receiving like 5 times a day. Now you're receiving hundreds of times per month, and now without even studying some certain topics, you have been engaged enough with what other people have to say to the point where you know them, and to the point where you can utilize them in the portions of your life that you need to. So the next one we have is about identity. And so sometimes when we speak and we're hollow inside, when we speak and we have not found ourselves, or we speak and we have been careless to the point where our speech is meaningless, we start to form a desire. I want to be someone. Like, I need to find what I want to be because that person is someone I can clearly tell. And you know what? I think I want to be someone too. And so instead of finding yourself through introspecting, through discovery, through natural, processes that lead to selfhood, through religion and prayer, you start to try to find yourself within conversations on the spot. It's like a character selection screen, and you're trying to talk to someone, and all you're doing is choosing your shirt and choosing your pants. Um, so your desire for selfhood should not be on a basis of, what you can say to someone in a given time. Who you are is not dependent on, oh my God, like this person has to know that I'm this certain way and that I'm this certain thing. That way, I'll be that thing. It's not, it doesn't work like that. And it's a misconception of what fake it till you make it means. Fake it till you make it is great. However, faking it does not mean faking it to other people. It means faking it to yourself so that you can do the actions that align with the thing that you want to be and slowly condition yourself until you are that person that you want to be. It doesn't mean just talking to people and trying to replicate in conversation what you want to be. And this is a problem that originates because of the existence of the devil. Sorry, one sec. So, this is the cause of, or at least it has to do in large part with the devil. So, how does the devil fit into this? Hey, look, I don't believe in magic. Like, what are you talking about? The devil, man? Like, already you want me to care about what I say? Well, let me break it down for you. So, how the devil works is that you want something. You want something really badly, or you have something, and that's not good for the devil because he wishes to control you and he wants you to do bad for the world. He wants you to spread corruption, and he can't do that if you have good things. And so, if you don't have bad things. And so, what does the devil do? The first stage of your defeat by the devil is for him to break what you have. And so let's take the example of fornication. Let's take some examples before we get into the example of identity in regards to the devil. So let's take the example of fornication. What is the root desire when somebody wishes to fornicate? And the root desire is most likely something along the lines of I need some kind of affection, I need some kind of relief, I need some kind of escape. And I think that I need these things through this means, and so I will start to try to get it. And so how it works then with the devil is after he makes you want to fornicate, after he instills it into your brain through continuous slight manipulation, through continuous manipulation through other people and through other means of evil, you start to accept, okay, man, I'm done. I know that I have to fornicate. I'm a man. I have needs, and there's nothing wrong with me. I can fornicate. Here, watch me do it. And then you start to go on Tinder, blah blah blah, and now you have accepted that, okay, you want to fornicate. So what's the next stage of the devil in this situation, and what's his next move? So the next move that he's going to have is to try to prevent you from doing that thing. He's going to try to break you to the point where you can't do that thing. So you might be thinking like this is counterintuitive. The devil doesn't want me to fornicate. I thought the fornication was a sin, or fornication was the thing that leads to diseases and leads to failures of marriages in the future. So why would he just not want me to do it? Well, the reason why he stops you from doing the thing that he made you want to do is because he wants to keep you he wants to keep you in chains. He wants to keep you in a situation where he's gripping you and he keeps pulling you. He has a grip on you and he's able to keep pulling you towards that sin without you ever reaching it. And he does this to utilize the core human mechanic of conditioning. By keeping you there in that spot where you want the thing that is bad for you, but you don't get it, you're going to slowly start increasing how much you want it. These other illnesses and diseases are going to start to form, like um, not being able to realize your goals, not being able to satisfy yourself, feeling or seeming deficient in your goal to fornicate, and all these things. Once he has put you in his domain of wanting to sin, now now you're just his playground, and now he's just going to play with you and not give you what you want. Instead, he's going to give you more destruction and illness. So now you're in that stage and you can't get that fornication. And finally, you no longer care about wanting it or not. All you know is that fornication is something that, if you got it, that's it. Your life is complete. And without feeling like you want it, without even feeling the lust that the devil gave you, without even having any desire or having any need to have sex, you are now by default a walking human that wants and knows that it needs fornication. And so yeah, in the case of identity, what does that mean? So just like fornication, the first stage is to break your identity, to make you think that you have no identity. And he does this through manipulation, through confusing you, making you, giving you kind of one identity, making you think you're one thing, and then giving you a different one, making you think you're a different identity. And through this confusion and through slowly not caring, slowly degrading your idea of who you want to be or what you are now then in this widespread state of I'm trying to find myself, or I'm trying to self discover, like I got to travel or something. And so once you're in that stage where you have accepted what the devil wants, you have accepted what the first stage of his exploitation is, which is for you to not know who you are or what you are, then he can pull you again into his playground. Come here, you don't know who you are. Let me show you who you are. He gets you into his domain. And so how does he give you what you want? How does he give you the thing that you have accepted? I do not have it and I just need it no matter what. I need to know who I am and what I am. And how does he do that? Well, he starts to play around with you, making you think that you can do it by speaking to other people. And so you're speaking to people, and the devil's like, hey, man, like you're this thing. And God, if he knew that you were this thing, bro, you'd be so cool. So you just start spouting things that the devil instills into your brain, thinking that you'll just magically be those things, or thinking that you need to express that you're this thing that you're probably not. And you do this to people in conversations seeking selfhood because the devil trained you to be hollow and trained you to try to seek selfhood just simply by expressing things in a conversation. And so this is a problem because we don't have clear guidelines. We don't rely on clear guidelines as to what we should be and who we are and what we are. And these clear guidelines are very easily delivered to you through something like the Quran, through something like the religion of Islam, where God tells you who you are. You're a servant of Him. He tells you what you should be. He says that the more beloved to me is the strong servant. The more beloved to me is the strong worshiper than the weak worshiper. Okay, so I need to be strong. He says through his prophets, through their expressions and through their character, you know that you need to be kind and gentle. You know that you need to be harsh to evil. You know that you need to stand for justice. And through these clear rules and guidelines, you can then say, no, devil, I'm not that, and I don't care about, what you think I should be or what I'm not, or if I don't know myself. I have these clear guidelines and they've been working out for me. They've been showing me what I need to do, and it's been successful both for me and society. So I don't need to express myself in a conversation in order to for me to be somebody. I already know what I need to be from this book, and it's working pretty well. So the next kind of rule or problem that we have in speech today is speech for attention and speaking for entertainment purposes. So, speaking for attention, to me, the most common case that I see and the most disruptive case, the most clear one that I can notice if I'm not in the conversation myself, is laughing too loud. Like, I'm not sure if you notice, but does happiness directly correlate with the volume of laughter? I don't, I don't think so. Like, people who are laughing too loud, I think that they are either subconsciously trying to disrupt the conversation or have some means of gaining attention from someone or something. And, the causes for those we can just contemplate forever. But the basis of the matter is that we shouldn't be laughing too loud, and since there is no reason for it, since our happiness shouldn't be predicated upon the volume of our laughter, we should speak with respect and we should speak with a greater purpose than something like, getting attention or having the most fun, or, whatever the purpose is for that scenario. And also, we should mention that uh, with this kind of behavior, how often are conversations just completely deteriorated into means of just attention and happiness and desires? We should recognize that if something leads to evil, then it may as well be from the devil. And so, if we are just laughing because the devil wants to disrupt conversations, I feel like that's good enough of a reason to not laugh that loudly. The next one we have is speech to dominate, which I already kind of touched on. You can dominate speech in many ways, and specifically when you're dominating speech in through the volume of your voice, it's a very disgusting behavior because instead of utilizing your intellect, instead of utilizing your character, instead of utilizing your awareness for human emotions and being able to critically think about the matter that you're speaking with and relying on the weight of your words and the concepts that you utter, you're relying on something merely physical. Like, I can speak very loudly, and thus I should hold control. I should be the leader just because I can more aggressively sound my voice. And it says in the Quran about this, be moderate in your pace and lower your voice, for the ugliest of voices is certainly the braying of donkeys. And so it just blatantly kind of calls out people who do this by, comparing them with donkeys. And it's very logical too, because what differentiates us from animals, if all we do is just like if all we do is just make noises like them in order to get the attention of others. The next one we have is negativity and negative speech. So something very, very common in our society today through speech is ridicule. And often through speech, we are ridiculing each other and ridiculing others for many more purposes than just, that you hate them or something. Like, you want to break the ice with someone? Well, you can throw in, casual insult. Is the conversation getting boring for you or for the person who you're talking to? You can insult them, things will get kicked up. Are there any unprocessed emotions that you have for who you're speaking to or for things that happened in your past? Well, you can just throw in an insult. That stuff it'll go away as soon as you comply with that whisper that the devil is giving you to be insultive or to ridicule. He'll let you go, and you can be free of all that stress and all that anguish that you're feeling in that moment. And God said in the Quran that we don't ridicule one another because of the fact that whoever you're ridiculing may be better than you. And so, two things about this. The first one is that God is clearly stating to you that, whilst you're joking with your insult, even if you don't mean it, why don't you instead worry about yourself and worry about being better? Let's say that this person that you're ridiculing is kind of as bad as you're making them seem. Why don't you try to be better than them? Because they may as well be better than you, the person who is being negative and insulting towards them. And God also orders us as humans and as Muslims to not be negative. And this is for the clear purpose that it deteriorates society. And over time, the more people, start to ridicule, the more people start to deteriorate relationships, the more of a norm it is to have deteriorated relationships, and the more damage is done to society over time. It says in the Quran, Allah does not like negative thoughts to be voiced except by those who have been wronged. Allah is all hearing and all knowing. So what can we do if we're negative? This is something that has been ingrained into our speech and into our society. Being negative is something that is seemingly positive, something that is seemingly beneficial. You gotta have somebody to complain to. You gotta let things out sometimes, man, or else it's just gonna stay deep down inside. And so what can we do about this? Like, is there any way to kind of fix this about ourselves at the very least in order to help fix it in society? Well, I am offering you a two-step process. Very simple, only two steps. So the first step is, if you're in a conversation, I want you to experiment with this. And this is to completely reject all impulsive emotions. Any feelings that you get when you're in a conversation, when you're interacting with people, and any emotions that you feel quickly and they just happen all of a sudden and that lead to actions or saying anything, completely reject it. Say, nope, I'm not going to respect that emotion, and I'm not going to use it as a basis for what I want to say or do in this moment. The next step for this process is to Choose an option. It's like you're playing Mass Effect. It really is. Choose an option out of the things that you can do, and make sure that that thing that you want to do or say aligns with who you are inside, and what you fight for and what you believe in. And if you do these two steps, I guarantee you that you will always benefit yourself and benefit everybody that you ever speak to or interact with. You'll become such a resource and such an asset for society because the things that you utter have been carefully selected and crafted by what you want the world to be and how you want to influence the world. And these two steps are might be difficult at first, but the more you do them, the more you tap into our core functionality of conditioning. And so the more you do this, the more you're going to be able to condition yourself to speak with a purpose and to speak with a cause and to speak trying to better yourself and others. And so why is it even important, like this purposeful speech and speaking for the benefit of others and speaking like is this really important to be so humanitarian and care about the world and all this stuff? Like, man, I'm just trying to live, like we got problems. You're trying to make me care about the entire world. I'm barely surviving just myself. Well, even if you're just trying to survive yourself, let's take a look at an example of purposeless speech and what that could lead to for yourself alone. Well, in terms of success, you're going to be losing a lot of opportunities just spouting the first thing that comes to your mind. You're going to be uh, slowly degrading your thought process and your ability to think because of the fact that speech and language is the core basis and system that your thoughts rely on. You're unable to think in an advanced manner if your vocabulary is low, if you can't follow lines of conversation and things like that. And let's look at situations where you're speaking carelessly or you don't care what you say or do. In situations where, for example, you're speaking to the opposite sex, and this is a problem with chastity that I'll probably might go into in a future video. But if you're speaking to the opposite sex and you don't care about what you say, then that's a clear route towards things that lead to diseases and illnesses and failed marriages. That's a road that leads to fornication and premarital sex and all this mistresses stuff and all these poisonous things that could plague you in society. And these matter not just for yourself and your spirit, but also for the entire society, as we have statistics showing the negative effects of doing things like this, the negative effects on divorce rates, and the negative effects on the child's mental health growing up, having only one parent, and things like that. Um, so, with this in mind, perhaps the next time that you speak to someone, even if it's completely meaningless or seemingly meaningless, like perhaps if it's about the weather, or your friend has a problem, or even like your friend has got some acne, you might want to take a step back and instead of just brushing it off, like, yeah, the weather's nice. Oh, the weather's nice, or something like just meaningless. You might want to think about converting it or completely transforming that conversation into a way where you can provide value, where you can um, where you can find something about the person who you're talking to, and try to target some sort of weakness or some sort of thing about them that could better them and society in the future, or talk about something more meaningful that is around us other than the weather. For example, I'll give you some examples from my own life, and perhaps you can gain some value from that. So, I was at the grocery store, and the cashier was a little bit more talkative than usual, and that's when they brought up the weather. I said, the weather's bad right now. The weather's getting a little windy, and I'm like, yeah, I thought that this person could use some a little bit of faith. And so I kind of tried to give him that, and I told him, yeah, it sucks. The weather really sucks, but it's just such a huge blessing that we get to stay inside. We could be outside in the cold, but instead, we have gotten the chance and the blessing of being having a warm home and things like that. And I try to do this because when somebody gets gratitude, when a human is able to feel gratitude, their entire life starts transforming. They start to be more appreciative. They start to be more kind to others because they feel better. They start to care more about themselves and stop harming themselves. So I'm trying to give this guy some faith, some means of being grateful. Like, yeah, but at least we get to stay inside and be in this warmth instead of having to deal with that terrible weather outside. And so the person says, yeah, well, yeah, it's great to be inside, and not very responsive to the kind of the idea of what I'm trying to provide. And so at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and give another attempt. I'm gonna do this one more time and see if there's a budge or anything. So I'm like, yeah, I heard him speak before about something about his hometown or his country that he immigrated from or something. So I'm like, yeah, sometimes God chooses to place people in places of comfort and places of places where they can be safe and warm, and places of that you can immigrate to, and places that are better than where you are previously or where you are in the current moment. Just like the when you immigrated here, those other people, they didn't get a chance to immigrate here. They didn't get that blessing from God, but God chooses who he wants to move, who he wants to put somewhere else, somewhere that is better. And that is just so great that he chose us. He could have just left us where we were. And so this is something that is a huge it's a huge move for me. Like, it's a huge move for me to go in this route and be like trying to inject faith into this guy, trying to like give this guy an idea that so many different concepts here, like God is real, so you should become a faithful religious strong man, and then you should be grateful because God chooses who he wants to place in better situations. And then like all this, like all these things, I tried to do this because I don't have much time with this man, and I'm just trying to give him as much as I can before I leave. And that's the purpose that I transformed this situation about weather into, in order to at least attempt to give this guy, to make this guy's life a little bit better. Another situation is at the gym. So, I've been going to my school gym for years now. I'm in my last year. And I saw someone who I have never seen before over there. And it's very clear that, he just got into university. He seems very young. And he seems like he's just still getting started. And so I thought to kind of approach him. I have a break in between my sets. So I'm like, okay, let me approach this guy and let me see what's up. Maybe try to give some value. And so I approach him and I'm like, hey man, like, how's it going? And he's talkative, so he just starts talking, which is great. And then before I even get into anything God related, or anything, related to what the purpose is that I set for this seemingly meaningless conversation at the gym, he says, "Hey man, you look kind of big, like good for you, He's giving some props, and I'm like, "Yeah, at that point, I make the decision to relay the conversation to the purpose that I made for the conversation. I want to relay it back because I feel like this is an opportunity. I see a desire in the person that I'm speaking to, and I want to utilize that in order to better his life and in order to provide him value for his life that he can keep forever. And this is just a means of combating the devil, because the devil is also trying to find desires of this man. He's trying to also find his desires and then play with them in order to misguide him and in order to break him and destroy him internally and emotionally and mentally. So I find his desire. He says big, and so I realize that he wants to get big. And so um, I'm like, yeah, before I became consistent, I was struggling a lot. It felt like a chore to go to the gym. I didn't like the pain, and I just didn't like how much time I'm wasting. And it was just a mess. And I stopped, and I was just like, man, I'm done with this. Like I hate how inconsistent I am. I hate how lazy I'm being. I just need to get big, and I just want to get stronger. And so, you know what I did? I said, maybe God can help me. And so I raised my hand and I'm like, God, oh God, can you please give me the strength and give me the endurance and give me the consistency to sufficiently get bigger and stronger and reach my goals at the gym. And then suddenly I was just like going to the gym every day and it was enjoyable. And I was being creative with my workouts and things were just happening for me at the gym. And so I utilized this moment and I utilized what I found to be this person's desire in a stage where they are about to pursue a long-term goal of physique and strength and size of their body in order to try to give him some kind of perspective that could possibly lead him to become closer to God. And whether you like it or not, or whether you're religious or not, this is a huge benefit for the person because being close to God, being religious, following rules that say, "Hey, don't sleep around," following rules that say, don't drink, is just a huge benefit for the person who you're speaking to. Their lives are going to get significantly better if they choose to follow these rules and if they choose to follow God, if they choose to follow these rules that God loves his servants who are stronger. So now I can't be weak. Now I don't have a choice. So I can't rely on feelings that make me weak. Just these rules that make a man and make a human that much better is going to better this person's life, no matter whether or not you think that God is in the sky or not, or God is real or not, or whatever kind of issues you have with religion. And so these are some ways that I transform the conversations in order to make a purpose out of them, and in order to utilize conversations, utilize speech in order to make myself better and the world around me better. And imagine if we all did this instead of going to the gym to talk about sports or going to the gym to talk about with the boys about some incident that happened with the hockey player, and oh my God, like how could that happen? Instead of that, we could be making ourselves better and making each other better and making the world better. Imagine if we all did this, how much more defense we would have against evil and against tragedy and against weakness and against injustice. If we were all strong believers that continuously tried to make the world better with every single word that we utter to each other, do you think we would stand for injustice that's happening around the world? Do you think that we would just let things happen with all the strength that we have together and by ourselves? We would instantly organize and go attack that evil, and the world would just be rid of these weak incidents, these societally weak incidents that occur. And so the next one is about speech without truth. Speech without truth or respect to truth. And for before we get into this, let's talk about just a common example, which is to half lie or to uh, or to exaggerate. And so people do this in order to make a story more entertaining. They do this in order to create more significance in a situation that they're talking about. Or they do this, just to get some entertainment. Life is getting boring. and maybe some drama will put some color into the gray world that we have. And so this is an injustice towards truth. We disrespect the truth to the point where, it's not that much of a lie, or I don't see the outcome of these lies. I don't see the outcome of being not being truthful in this situation. Plus, it's just casual. And on top of that, this is my friend, so I'm gonna have fun talking to them. And so in Arabic, we have the word kidhib. So kidhib is directly translated, it means lies, or it means lie, and can be used to call a liar a liar. And so what is kidhib in Arabic is actually related to an animal. And so the root meaning of kidhib, the root meaning of liar in Arabic, is tied to the description of a worried animal, always cautiously looking around with fear, looking around with every step, trying to gauge, okay, like, am I about to get eaten or something? And so this kind of puts you in perspective. Like when we're not being truthful and we're not doing justice to the truth in our conversations and in our speech, are we also like this animal? Are we on edge, always checking? Does that person know everything about what I'm saying so I can't do the half lie? Am I kind of afraid that if my half lie turned into the truth, would there be punishment? Am I defensive? Like if somebody's trying to acknowledge the full truth, am I defensive and I kind of start attacking them for trying to value the truth about the matter when I try to hide it? Am I always lacking peace and I'm unable to rest in my deception and in my effort to deceive others for whatever purpose I made? And so if that's the case, then we're being like worrisome animals. We're being like the root meaning of kidhib. And so this might seem like counter productive if you're in the world of business, if you're in the world of if you're opportunistic, if you're an entrepreneur, and your lines are a bit grayed out because you know that, hey, sometimes to get things you got to be a little bit Machiavellian. And so in this case, people evade saying the full truth in order to gain more. And what that does is that it corrupts your means of gaining. And when you corrupt your means of gaining, you start giving yourself a little bit, and then your inside, your like your ego, the thing that always wants more, the thing that wants to eat more, the thing that wants to have sex, this thing, it starts trying to grab a little bit more and little bit more, and throughout time, that little thing that you grayed out, that line that you grayed out in order to gain more in that situation, starts adding up and adding up and adding up until your means of getting things and your means of gaining resources and success and things involve cheating and lying and complete corruption. And so the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said, truth leads to righteousness, and righteousness leads to paradise. A man continues to speak the truth until he is recorded with Allah as truthful. Lying leads to wickedness, and wickedness leads to hell. A man continues to lie until he is recorded with Allah as a liar. And so that little bit of gain that you got in that situation is really not the end of it. It's really not a one-time thing. And it's really not just like, man, but this is the thing. This is the thing that I want. After it, I'm never gonna cheat ever again. It's not like that, because even um, as the prophet here says, you're gonna keep doing it until that's it. That's who you are. And you can go ahead and reflect on this and experiment in your own mental world and kind of reflect on the people that you know and think about it. Are the people that lie, do they just did it once their entire life? Oh, if somebody's a liar, they're a complete liar, or they completely do this often. And the last one that we're going to talk about in regards to speech is um, justice and injustice. And so when you speak, or when others speak around you, you may not feel like you have a responsibility. You know, I'm responsible for what I utter out of my mouth. I'm not responsible for other people. You're trying to get me in trouble. What are you trying to do? Well, the fact of the matter is that that person is in your society, and your society, the kind of future of it is predicated upon what that society does. You know, your tax is going towards everyone, as a kind of example, and your presence in that society gives you a portion of that responsibility. It gives you a portion of the responsibility to make sure that the future of the society is better, or is better than it is, or is has less evil, has less injustice, and has less of the poison that has grown. And so let's take the example of rumors, for example. How easy would it be if you heard if for you to hear a rumor and just be like, you know, bro, like, stop talking about people. You know, I don't want to hear this about other people. And how much effect would you have if every time you hear or see injustice, you're just to simply just speak like a few words, just 4 or 5 words, saying, you know, that's wrong, or stop that, or whatever it is. And it doesn't mean that you have to go the full lengths of, you know, getting into a complete conflict. You just throw in an attempt in there, you know what I mean? Just throwing some acknowledgement of the truth and justice of the matter, and maybe it hits. You never know. So Allah says in the Quran that backbiting is like eating the flesh of his brother, whilst he is dead, whilst his brother is dead. And so spreading rumors is quite literally as disgusting as eating off the dead body of your own brother. And so if we try to acknowledge, like, is something wrong? What's the weight of the matter? How does this affect society at large? It becomes much easier to realize that, okay, you know, maybe I should dedicate a few seconds just saying, just making one statement and telling this person that what they're doing is wrong, or what's happening here is wrong. And if you were to extend that and kind of develop this situation or this scenario into more people doing it, like, I don't know, even just like 20% of our society doing it, do you think that as many people would just walk around spreading injustice and spreading rumors and spreading these corrupted things? I don't think so, because it would be a common practice for them to be called out. It would be a common practice for them to be embarrassed. And it also puts you into perspective. Is like, are you a person that if you were to stand in the face of injustice, would your words hold that much weight? Would you be in a position where you could state, hey, you know, you're wrong, and what's happening here is wrong? Or would you be afraid due to weakness? Like, what if they retaliate? What if something happens? What if I'm not able to intellectually defend why that's wrong? And so that perspective should urge you to become smarter and stronger. And so speaking out in the face of injustice is not just about society and making society better. Again, I'll relate it back to just ourselves, if that's what we're worried about. If our worry is just ourselves, um, a potential for growth in speaking out is, are we capable of doing so? Are we capable of standing our ground for what we believe in? Are we capable of fighting for what we think is right? And if not, it should urge you to try harder and to work harder and to get better and stronger and smarter. And I'll close off with that. And I truly believe that if these things are something that you want to do, If you agree with the things that I have to say, I'm gonna throw it out there that the things that that I've said here, and the values that I've proposed to you, and the correct methods of speaking that I offered are all in line with the religion of Islam. And if that is something that you are interested in, then feel free to reach out to me, and we can speak more about the religion. We can speak more about this topic, or about any other topic that you think is troubling society. And thank you very much, and see you later.